The mission she ruined. The sky over Red Echo 9 was dark with smoke. Flames burned across the ridge, and inside the comms channel, only one voice was shouting. "She moved early. Repeat, Unit 3 broke the plan." Captain Jackson Reed watched from his command drone. His jaw tightened as the screen showed one figure charging into enemy fire. Not covered, not backed up, not in position, just charging. Her armor was jet black. Her blade glowed silver. Her voice roared like thunder. Her name was Velith, a warrior from the alien clan Ja'arin, and she had just destroyed the mission. The humans and allied alien units were supposed to wait. They had studied the enemy layout. They had traps ready, timers set. But Velith didn't wait. She didn't follow orders. She wanted blood, and she got it. But not just the enemies. Her squad was scattered. One human soldier burned by plasma fire. 2 wounded, the rest barely holding ground. Jackson dropped into the fight from above, jetpack low, silent, clean. He found Velith mid-strike, slashing through a robotic drone with pure rage. "Fall back," he ordered. She didn't listen. Only when he physically stepped in front of her, rifle raised, did she stop. Her 4 glowing eyes locked on him. "What are you doing?" she growled. Jackson pointed to the wounded behind her. "To remind you who's bleeding for your pride." They held the line. Barely. Reinforcements came late. Because Velith broke the timeline, and when it was all over, Jackson stood in front of her in silence. She wiped blood off her armor. "I ended them," she said proudly. Jackson didn't nod, didn't thank her. He just said one sentence, calm and cold. "You didn't end them. You ruined us." 3 days later, Orbit Base Airy 12. The debriefing room was quiet, too quiet. Jackson stood before the command council. Behind him, screens showed the aftermath. Wounded troops, broken supply lines, evac drones pulling bodies, and at the center of it all, one glowing name. Velith. Jackson's report was simple. She acted without orders. She ignored direct commands. She risked the lives of every unit in the field. An elder general asked, "What punishment do you suggest?" Jackson paused, then said, "Don't punish her. Teach her." Later that day, Velith received new orders. Reassigned. Not to the elite Blade Corps, not to the war front, but to Jackson Reed's personal command, training, recovery, discipline. She stormed into his quarters without knocking. "You think you can tame me, human?" she snarled. Jackson didn't look up from his data pad. "No." He stood slowly. "I think I can show you something better than rage." She laughed bitterly. "I am rage." He stepped closer, looked her in the eyes. "No, your wasted potential." She expected anger, orders, threats. But instead, Jackson walked past her, to the window, pointed to the stars. "See that? A distant colony burned on the horizon. Your next mission. With me. But if you break the plan again..." He turned back. "Then, you won't be fighting enemies, you'll be fighting me." Velith didn't answer, but her fists clenched, not in defiance. In silence. For the first time in years. She wasn't sure what to say. Later, in the private training yard, Jackson watched her from a distance. She slashed, spun, kicked through the air, pure power. But with every move, there was no rhythm, no flow, only chaos. He spoke softly through the comm. "You're strong, Velith, but strength without control is just another kind of weakness." She stopped mid-strike, breathed hard, didn't turn around, but didn't move either. His words had landed, somewhere deep. Far away in the shadows of the fleet, an old Ja'arin warrior watched her footage. He turned to his second. "She's with the humans now," the second warrior growled. "She'll return, they always do." The elder shook his head. "She's not following them." A pause. "She's learning," assigned to the human. The room was quiet, too quiet for someone like Valeth. She hated stillness, hated waiting, and most of all, she hated being reassigned, especially to a human. Outside the thick metal walls of the command room, warriors trained with fire blades and sonic rifles. But inside, Valeth stood stiff, arms crossed, eyes narrowed at the man behind the desk, Captain Jackson Reed. He didn't raise his voice, didn't even look annoyed. He simply read her file while sipping cold black coffee. It burned her more than any weapon. "You're late," Jackson said without looking up. "I'm not here to follow your clock," she snapped. "Good," he replied calmly, finally meeting her eyes. "Because you're not here to fight. You're here to learn," she hissed. "I don't need to learn from soft-bodied humans who hide behind orders." He stood, walked to the center of the room and pointed to a wall where names were carved in quiet steel. Dozens of names. No ranks, no medals, just names. Jackson spoke. They followed orders. They died with honor. The ones who didn't, they made that wall grow longer. Valeth said nothing. Her eyes flickered over the names, then to Jackson, then away. She didn't like how his words made her feel, like maybe she was already wrong. Her new assignment began immediately, not with weapons, not with drills, with structure. Wake at 600, run at 615, training from 700 to 1200, team tactics after lunch, discipline logs before rest. It was slow, controlled, infuriating. On the third day, during team drills, Valeth ignored orders again. The objective was to protect the data core. Instead, she left her squad to hunt the enemy drone, alone. She took it down, fast, brutal. But while she was away, the data core was destroyed. The team lost again. Jackson didn't shout, didn't punish her in front of others. Instead, he pulled her aside quietly and said, "You fight for yourself, but leadership means dying for someone else. And worse, living for them." She spat on the ground near his boots. "I'm not weak like your soldiers." He leaned closer and whispered, "No, you're not, but right now, you're weaker than you could be." That night, Valeth sat alone in the cold training yard. She watched the stars and remembered her last commander, her blood brother, killed in a raid she led too soon. She never admitted it out loud. But in her chest? That moment never left her. The next morning, Jackson found her waiting at the training mat, early, alone, focused. He didn't comment. He just said, "Partner drill. No weapons. Just timing." She nodded. They began. He moved with precision, never faster, never slower. And she followed, step by step, strike for strike, not with rage, but with restraint. At the end, they stood facing each other. Neither had spoken in 20 minutes. Both were breathing hard. Then Jackson said softly, "You didn't break formation once." She nodded, a simple gesture, but for her it was everything. That night, Jackson filed his first report. Subject, Valeth of Ja'arian progress, minimal outward change. But something unseen has begun. She doesn't speak as much. She listens. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the alien fleet, the Ja'arian War Council watched the data feeds. One elder leaned forward. "She follows orders now?" Another hissed. "She's been broken." But the oldest among them simply said, "No, she's being rebuilt." The lesson in the rain. The storm hit hard. Rain slammed against the ground like falling rocks. Winds howled through the trees, and the sky above Training Zone 4 cracked with thunder. Valeth stood in the downpour, armor soaked, claws clenched, across Kioi. The field, a human training squad, was pinned behind cover. Simulated enemies, steel drones with blue stunners, advanced from all sides. They needed support. They needed her. But she didn't move. Not yet. Because Captain Jackson Reed had given her one order: hold position until you receive the signal. You're not the hero today, you're part of a team. Valeth hated waiting. She burned with energy under her skin. The rain didn't cool her. It only reminded her she was being kept on a leash. Then she saw it. A drone flanking the squad from the left. She could stop it. One leap. One strike. Her claws were sharp. Her legs stronger than human machines. She didn't need a signal. She was the signal. She moved. The moment her boots left the hill, she felt it. A shift. A weight. The trap had been for her. As she landed and sliced through the flanking drone, 3 others activated, hidden units waiting for a lone attacker. They fired. Her shield broke in 2 hits. She dropped to her knees in the mud, stunned. The human squad lost their protection. They failed. Again. 30 minutes later, she stood before Jackson. Soaked, angry, silent. He didn't speak for a full minute, then simply asked, "Why did you break formation?" She looked away. "I saw an opening." "You saw your opening, not theirs," she growled. "I could have stopped them. And instead," he said, stepping closer, "you got caught. You exposed the others. And worst of all," he pointed to the training board, "you didn't trust them." Valeth's eyes narrowed. "They're not strong." Jackson's voice dropped low. "Then help them grow. Lead them. Don't abandon them." He turned away. But before leaving, he said one thing. "Stay out here. You like the storm? Good, sit in it. Feel what it's like to stand alone." He walked away. Didn't look back. Didn't argue. Just left her there. The rain poured harder. Valeth stood still, then sat. The ground was cold. The sky loud. Time passed. She didn't know how long, but slowly something inside her began to crack. Not from pain. From clarity. She remembered her old squad. Their voices. Their trust. The day she ran ahead. The day they didn't come back. And now she saw the pattern. She was strong, but not trusted. And it was her fault. When the storm finally ended, Jackson returned. He didn't ask what she felt. He just handed her a dry towel and said, "Discipline isn't chains. It's a shield for your team. If you want to lead, you have to be the last to strike, not the first." That night, Valeth stayed late in the training room, not fighting, just walking through formations, counting seconds, measuring her breath, watching video replays of team strategy. She wasn't just training her body anymore. She was training her patience. The next day, she joined the same squad she had abandoned. They didn't look at her with trust. Not yet. But she stood behind them in formation. And for the first time, she waited. From the observation tower, Jackson watched. He didn't smile. Didn't speak, but he marked a note on his data pad. For the first time, she didn't move first. In the dark halls of the Jarian fleet, an elder warrior watched her progress. He turned to the others. She sits in storms now, and listens to the thunder. The day she listened. The jungle was quiet, too quiet. The kind of silence that only happened before something exploded. Captain Jackson Reed crouched behind a moss-covered rock, watching the ridge through his visor. Next to him, Valeth stood tall, her body still, her eyes glowing softly in the shadows. She had learned to wait now, to listen, but this was her first real mission since the incident, and everyone knew it. Their team was small, 5 members, mixed species. Their goal, rescue a scientist taken by local raiders. No weapons were to be fired unless absolutely needed. Stealth, precision, teamwork. Jackson had warned her before drop. No glory hunting, no charging. Today we move as one. If you go rogue, the mission fails. Valeth didn't argue this time. She just nodded. And now, in the dense green silence of the alien world, her claws were steady. Her heart was quiet. She waited. A low signal chirped in her earpiece. Target located. The scientist was alive, trapped inside a makeshift compound guarded by 3 sentries. Jackson raised 2 fingers, pointed right, signaled silent entry. The team moved. Valeth moved with them, no faster, no slower. Was the first time she had ever followed human signs without skipping steps. The others noticed, but no one said it out loud. Not yet. They reached the outer fence. Jackson whispered, "Valeth, take the flank. Wait for my mark." Old habits screamed in her chest. "Move now, strike. Finish this." But she pushed the thoughts away, breathed deep, waited. 3 seconds. 5, 7. Jackson's hand moved. Now, Valeth leapt into motion, but not alone. She moved with her partner. One distracted, one disabled. No death, no noise, just teamwork. Clean, fast, controlled. Inside, they found the scientist unharmed but panicked. Jackson knelt beside her, calming her with soft words. The team covered exits. Valeth stood guard near the door, scanning for threats. On the way back, things went wrong. A booby trap triggered. Explosive. Vines wrapped around the scientist's legs. If pulled wrong, boom. The squad froze. Valeth stepped forward, analyzing the mechanism. "It's a layered pull trap," she said. Jackson nodded. "You know how to defuse it?" She looked up. For Ja'arian warriors, traps like this were part of childhood trials. He stepped back. "Then this is yours." Everyone waited. Breath held. No one spoke, not even the scientist. Valeth worked slow, claw tips flicking vines, aside with precision. Tiny beads of sweat rolled down her face, but her hands didn't shake. She reached the final knot, and paused. Last strands fused. One wrong move, she loses a leg. Jackson crouched beside her. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "If you need help." She shook her head. "I don't need help, I just needed to listen." Then calmly, she clipped the last vine. No explosion, just silence. Then, relief. As they lifted off in the shuttle, the scientist looked at Valeth. "You saved me." Valeth looked away. "I didn't act alone." Back at base, the mission report uploaded clean. No errors, no losses, no broken orders. For the first time, her name wasn't in the incident notes. Later, in the training yard, Jackson handed her a sealed envelope. Inside, a commendation, not just for the mission, for leadership. "You listened," Jackson said. "I followed," she replied. "No," he corrected. "You led, with patience." That night she stood in her quarters, the medal beside her. She didn't pin it to her armor. She placed it near her old blade instead, a quiet reminder that some victories are won without raising a weapon. In the distant, dark, her people received word of her award. Some scoffed, but one old warrior whispered, "She is no longer chasing fire. She is becoming the fire itself." The trial of 2 worlds. The message came in cold, a black-sealed transmission from the Ja'arian High Council. It carried 1 sentence only. "Return to face judgment. Your blood no longer speaks for you." Valeth stood in silence as the words echoed in her mind. Jackson watched her from across the room. He already knew what it meant. She had been away too long, and worse, she had changed. To her people, that was betrayal. "You don't have to go," Jackson said. But she shook her head slowly. "Yes, I do." "Why?" She turned to him, her voice low. "Because I left them as a wildfire. Now I must return as something controlled. To prove that flame doesn't mean destruction." Within days they reached Ja'arin Prime, a cold world of glass deserts and frozen rivers. Valeth stepped off the shuttle alone. No weapons, no armor, only a thin ceremonial cloak over her shoulders, and eyes that had once burned. Now steady. The council stood in the circle of stone. 12 warriors, old, proud, unforgiving. The lead elder spoke. "You train with humans. You speak like them. You walk without rage. Explain yourself." Valeth didn't raise her voice. "I still carry Ja'arian blood, but now I carry it with control." Murmurs spread through the circle. One younger warrior stepped forward. Kator. He spat near her feet. You turned soft. Let's see what discipline does against real power. He drew his blade. Challenge issued. Valeth didn't flinch. She bowed slightly, then looked to the elder. I accept. Jackson watched from the outer ring of the arena. He wasn't allowed to speak, not to interfere, only to witness. The duel began with no warning. Kator attacked like a beast, wild, fast, full of fury. But Valeth didn't meet his force with force. She moved like water, flowed around each strike. Let him tire. Let him waste his rage. She didn't strike for several minutes. Only blocked, evaded, listened. Then, at the perfect moment, she slid past his swing and pressed her claw to his throat. A killing position, she held it there, and didn't strike. The crowd was silent. Kator blinked in disbelief. She stepped back. Let him live. The elder warrior finally spoke. Why didn't you finish him? Valeth looked directly at the council. Because strength is not only how hard you strike, but knowing when not to. No one spoke for a long time. Then the elder slowly stood and nodded once. You have not betrayed your blood. You have sharpened it. After the trial, Valeth found Jackson waiting beside the shuttle. He smirked. You didn't even touch him. She gave a small smile. I didn't need to. He handed her something wrapped in cloth. She opened it. Inside, her original field badge. Burned, damaged, left behind after her first failed mission. You've earned it back, Jackson said. She held it tightly, but then she handed it to him. No, she said. I've earned something new. That night, under Ja'arian's 3 moons, she stood in front of the fire pits. Not as a rogue warrior, not as an exile, but as the first of her kind to return changed, and be honored for it. In the shadows of the council chamber, a new warrior asked, Will she stay? The elder replied, No. She belongs to both worlds now, and that is her greatest strength. She took the oath. The flag of the Unified Command waved gently above Fort Solaris, a stronghold built where 3 worlds met. On the platform below, soldiers stood in formation, humans, aliens, hybrids, but all eyes were on one figure, Valeth, no longer in black armor. She now wore a deep gray officer's uniform with no clan symbols, just a single silver mark. Honor, earned through service. Captain Jackson Reed stood beside her, holding a sealed oath scroll. He didn't smile, but his eyes said everything. You're ready. The officer in charge of ceremony stepped forward. Valeth of Ja'arian, do you accept the duty of command under human regulation? Valeth raised her hand. I do. Do you accept to lead not by fear, but by strength with restraint? I do. Then by the stars of the Allied flame, you are now Commander Valeth. Applause echoed around the courtyard. Jackson stepped forward and placed the command sigil on her shoulder. Valeth didn't flinch. She stood tall, her 4 glowing eyes calm. Not proud, not boastful, just steady. That night, Fort Solaris held a celebration. Food, music, laughter. Valeth stood by the edge of the crowd, watching silently. She was still getting used to it, being accepted. Jackson approached with 2 drinks. He offered one. She raised an eyebrow. Poison? He smirked. Only if you hate fruit water. She took it, tasted it, wrinkled her nose. 2. Sweet. You'll get used to it, Jackson said. Suddenly alarms blared across the base. Red lights flashed. The celebration fell silent. Emergency broadcasts lit up the sky screens. Unauthorized power surge in main reactor bay. All security to Sector C. Jackson and Valeth didn't wait. They ran. In the control room, chaos erupted. One of the energy cores, used to power defensive shields, was overheating, tampered, sabotaged. If it went critical, everyone on base would die. Timer says 10 minutes, an officer shouted. We can't shut it down manually. Jackson looked at Valeth. No words were needed. She was already moving. The control bay was thick with heat and smoke. The security team cleared the way, but none dared approach the core, except her. She slid between pipes, hands steady. The sabotage was precise. Someone who knew both human tech and Ja'arin fission. She studied the wires, smelled the heat, then whispered, "Whoever did this wanted it to look like my people." Jackson, watching through the camera, nodded. They wanted to turn us against each other, but not today, Valeth said. With seconds left, she reached the trigger wire. She could only cut one strand. The wrong one would kill her, and everyone above. She breathed, listened, heard the way the power surged, counted heartbeats. Then, snip, silence. Then, a soft click as the core shut down. When she emerged, covered in smoke and sweat, the command deck erupted in cheers. Jackson met her at the top of the stairs. "You've saved more lives than some generals ever will." She looked him in the eyes. "And not one with my blade." He smiled. "That's the discipline you never needed to be born with. You earned it." Later, in her quarters, she found a new message. It was not a command, not a reward, just a few simple words from the High Council of Ja'arin. "We watched. We believed the fire would consume you. Instead, you control it now. Lead with it." She sat in the quiet, holding the message. Her hand hovered over her old blade, then moved past it. She picked up her command sigil instead, clipped it to her uniform, then looked out the window into the stars. The warrior was gone, the weapon transformed, and in her place stood a leader. The one who chose to follow. The shuttle stood ready on the platform, engines warm, wings folded. Destination, Outer Reach Command, 2 systems away. Inside the control room of Fort Solaris, officers prepared transfer logs. One name blinked softly. On the manifest, Captain Jackson Reed, reassigned down in the training yard. Valeth stood watching a squad run drills, not shouting, not leading with fear. She observed, corrected posture, guided without ego, and the recruits listened. Jackson walked toward her, a small case in one hand. "You're early," he said. She turned calmly. "You're leaving." He nodded. Time for another broken warrior to fix. They stood in silence for a moment. No medals, no speeches, just 2 soldiers who had seen the best and worst of each other. Jackson handed her the case. She opened it. Inside, his old command badge, the one he wore the day she broke the mission. She looked up. "You kept it?" "I was saving it," he said. "Didn't know why." She closed the case gently. "You give this to all your students?" He shook his head. "You're not a student, you're a commander." She stepped closer, held out her hand. He took it, firm, respectful. Then she said quietly, "I used to follow only fire. Now I choose what burns. And I choose this." He raised an eyebrow. "This, as in?" She looked around the base. At the teams, the structure, the calm. At this post, these people, this future. Then added, "And if I ever follow again, it'll be because I want to, not because someone told me to." Jackson nodded slowly, proudly. "That's the kind of soldier I was hoping to build." She gave him the smallest smile. "Too bad I'm not yours anymore." They walked together toward the shuttle platform. As he stepped inside, she said one last thing. "You taught me control, discipline, patience. But more than that, you reminded me that power without purpose means nothing." Jackson turned at the door. "You already had the power, Valeth. All I did was help you use it right." The shuttle lifted off moments later. Valeth didn't watch it leave for long. She had work to do. Back on the command deck, she received her next mission briefing. Nothing fancy, just another team needing a leader. She pinned her new badge to her chest, straightened her back, and said quietly, "Let's begin. Let's..." Far away in the black of space, Jackson received a ping. He opened the message. From Commander Valeth. We finished training the new unit. No broken noses, no lost soldiers, no outbursts, but one cried during combat drills. I gave him 10 push-ups and a speech. I sounded like you. You'd hate it. He laughed, then typed back, No, I'd be proud.